The more targeted your content is, the more it speaks to your target audience, the more consistently you're put out in your value structure, who you are, what you can do, who you help, adding value, contrarian ideas, thoughtful stuff, whatever it is, the more you do that, the more people see it, the higher that trust bar goes up before they ever speak to you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Insurance Growth Lab. I'm Callan Harrington, and today I'm joined by Ryan Hanley. Ryan is the president of Linqura, and if you've been in the insurance space for pretty much any amount of time, you've heard Ryan's name before. In addition to his success at Linqura, Rogue Risk, Bold Penguin, and many others in the insurance space, he's been one of the most successful content creators and speakers in the industry, especially within the agent community. So for our deep dive today, I wanted to break down his content process, and that is exactly what we did. If you know Ryan, you know he's super passionate about what he believes in, and he did not disappoint. We talked about how he generates ideas for content, what his content flywheel looks like, and what he would do today if he was starting from scratch.
My best advice early on is just to start creating. Just start hitting publish. Just hit publish on LinkedIn, make once a day, once every other day, right? You need some consistency to it. And what it's gonna get you doing is start thinking in content. Thinking, when you see a headline, you start going, ooh, how would I spin that back to what I'm doing? Or you don't need 5,000 views, 10,000 views, 50,000 views. The right 57 people watching your video is all you need.
Do you have to have a personal brand to be successful these days? Or can you still be successful without one? These are both great questions, and it was super fun debating Ryan on them. So with that, let's get to the show. Ryan, I think one of the things that's obvious, anybody that's been in the space for any amount of times knows you're one of the biggest voices within the insurance community. And the reality is you've been one of the biggest voices for a pretty long time. And if you look at your career, you've been on both sides, right? You started in an agency, you had your own agency, sold that agency to SIA. You've been on the tech side with Linqura, and you've been on the tech side with Bold Penguin, and then you've been on the actual trade association side with Trusted Choice. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that personally I always found really interesting is, even when it wasn't necessarily directly beneficial to you and what you were doing, you always created content that was beneficial and helped agencies improve. What was the initial spark that led to that?
I wanted them to be successful. I felt like I had figured things out, and I knew how hard this industry can be if you don't fit kind of the classic traditional mold of either what a producer looks like or a CSR looks like, et cetera, agency owner. And it's tough when you don't feel like you fit the standard mold. There's not a lot of resources for you. You don't get the hype or the pub that kind of the tried and true grinders get, those chest thumpers. And not that those people aren't important. I love those people too. And I want them to listen. But I just always felt like I was a misfit. I've always felt like a misfit in this industry, but I know there are many others. I know I'm not alone. And I just felt obligated to tell my story in a way that hopefully showed other people that they can find their own path. It doesn't have to be mine, but that they could find their own path to where they fit in this space. And, I think sometimes I still flail to figure out exactly where I fit into the insurance world. It's a very unique and nuanced community. And I guess I just always wanted to help. I always want to help. I'm really bad at monetizing my content. By bad, I mean if a consultant were to come in and spend time with me, I don't have enough lead magnets. I don't have a low ticket program. I'm not selling a mastermind yet. I don't, there's plenty of things that I don't do. But I've always created because I don't know. I take so much inspiration from other people's work that if I could do that for someone else, then I wanted to. It's I do it for free. I do it. It's I can't help but not do it. I can't help but not share these things that I either figure out or know or learn or just find inspiring because, you know, it's like saying hi to somebody on the street. Like you never know which piece of content or which hello or which message is going to resonate with someone and turn their day around, turn their hour around, turn their week, their month, their career around. It's those things that keeps you going. The money's great. I love getting paid to speak. I love coaching people. I want to do more with sharing, you know, with helping people in a more direct way to be successful. And some of that will come out with time. But dude, I just have always felt this pull to share and to communicate and to help inspire, teach people.
You get about 6 things I want to dive into on this, but I want to start here. You mentioned you're a misfit. Were you wanting to talk to the other misfits, or were you like what was it that you were thinking like when you first got into this, right? When you first started, what was it that, and I think I have a pretty good feeling what you're talking about. Like a lot of people are saying a very similar thing. What was it that you weren't hearing that you were like, okay, I want to be that voice?
So dude, I've been in this business for 20 years, right? And there are a lot of people that have been in for 20, but I wasn't an insurance guy. I mean, my parents were blue collar. My mom was a receptionist. My dad was a laborer on the railroad. Like I knew nothing about professional services. I knew nothing about sales. I knew nothing about insurance. Basically, at the time, father-in-law made me a kind of mafioso style offer I couldn't refuse. Like I had no intention of coming into the insurance space, but he basically was like, if you're going to marry my little girl, you're going to come sell insurance for the Murray Group so I can keep an eye on you and make sure you're not a bum, which I appreciate. Now as a parent, I appreciate that thought process. So I did. But I'm not wired to just go out and ground and pound and, you know, make 100 cold calls a day and drop off 100 business cards. Like, it's just not the way that I was wired. It's not something that I enjoy doing. It's not something, it doesn't fit my sweet spot. I think I'm an educator at heart. So I almost got fired really early on. Like when I say I was a misfit, like 18 months into, 2 years into my career, my father-in-law fires me. And I literally have to beg him, like on my knees in his office, like, you don't want to have to tell your little girl that you fired me. I don't want to have that conversation with her. Like, let's not do this. Let's find out something that works. And that's when I kind of turned to content marketing and building a brand. And I knew nothing about that stuff, dude. Like, I went to college to be a mechanical engineer because I was good at math and science. I hated that. All I really wanted to do was play baseball. I kind of, grinded out and cheated my way through a math degree just so I could graduate on time. Like I had literally no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I was good at talking to people. I was always good in front of a crowd. I'm good at deal making. Like I knew I had some skills, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And when I found insurance, and I was thankfully educated enough to understand how lucrative our business model is, as well as understanding things like, we're an inflation adjusted industry. There's a lot of opportunity because we don't recruit, nor do we recruit very well. So it's not like you're playing in the financial advisor world where it's dog eat dog. Like, you can stand out pretty quick here. There's tons of blue ocean. You have a lot of people who just are laggards or late adopters of basically every process, every system, every piece of technology, which for fast movers, people who are willing to make decisions, people who are willing to kind of FAFO, it's all blue ocean. This industry is all blue ocean because of how traditional our space is. And that's not to knock the people that go about it the traditional way. You can be highly successful. And those are the people that built the industry and set the foundation for where we are. And I appreciate them. And, maybe early in my career, I didn't have as much appreciation, but now 20 years in, I get it. However, and so it's not a knock on the traditional way of business to say that there's blue ocean in these other forms of getting after it. It's just, there aren't a lot of entrepreneurial people. Like most agency owners are not entrepreneurs. Maybe technically they are, but they don't operate or think as entrepreneurs. Most of them are just really good salespeople who were smart enough and understood the concept of equity enough to go out and build their own space, but they don't operate as business owners. So if you're a business owner competing against an agency owner, that business owner is going to win all day over the long term. because they're going to be adaptable. They're going to be thinking out into the future. They're going to have replaced themselves in the agency, and they're going to be thinking things like scale. They're going to be thinking about how do I generate, how do I reduce my cost of acquisition, my CAC? How do I increase my conversion rate? They're going to work off of metrics. They're going to be constantly testing new tech. They're going to be, getting feedback from customers and thinking about user experience. They're going to be creating content and not making excuses not to. Hiring, culture, like this is what it means to be a business owner. Like we act like we have like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to think about customer experience, or I don't have time to think about my sales process. Well, you're unique in that. Every other business in the world, when it comes to insurance, has to think about those things. So when you come into our space and you know how to be creative, or you're a conversion optimization specialist, or insert outside of traditional agency function or mindset, all of that activity is blue ocean, because you're just not competing against that many other people who are even thinking in that way. So that was very obvious to me early. And I started to push into those spaces. And, what a lot of content creators today in our space don't understand is that this is going to sound egotistical. I don't mean it to be, but like basically Cass and I plowed the road for all you guys. Like it was when we first started talking about anything digital, cultural, social media, anything outside of the traditional way business was done. I used to have hecklers at my events. Like people would heckle me from the crowd while I was giving a keynote or a workshop. That shit does not happen anymore.
What was that moment? What was the moment when you're like, oh, this is working? Like this is actually like people are gravitating to this. What was what platform did you start to have this? Was it
from a insurance content creator, or as a creating content for the agency?
I'd like to focus this one because it's funny. It's interesting. I remember you were talking a lot about these videos, and we'd known each other for years. But you started Road Risk. I don't think we were super in touch between that. Yeah. And but I remember going. I was like, yeah, I'm curious how some of these videos that he's doing, how are they actually doing on YouTube? And I went and I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually, your numbers blew away what I thought would have been possible, because it's not like YouTube was a nascent platform at that time. Like it had been around and you built these. And what I thought was interesting is you were teaching all of this that entire time, like to come bring it full circle to what I was mentioning earlier. So I would love to dive in on the content creation for the agency audience as opposed to the consumer and business audience. But when I say business, prospects to your business as an agency.
So I learned the power of content marketing in general through my work direct to consumer through the agency. I learned the power of what it meant to build a personal brand and have a voice and a take through my first podcast, which was called Content Warfare. So I started a podcast in 2011 called Content Warfare. And it was all just, it was marketing, sales and marketing podcast. Mm-hmm. And this was really when HubSpot was coming up, and content marketing was all the rage, and how do you tell a story? And now all these businesses are taking on the task of not only performing what they do, but now they're telling their story and using content to do that. And I was having so much success at the Murray Group that I just started sharing what I was doing there out into the public. Now, there's a few reasons for that. So, philosophically, I believe in a few things that may or may not be true, but I act as if they are. I believe that at all times, you have the muse and the resistance sitting on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm. War of art.
Yep, it's the War of Art, Stephen Pressfield. And you cannot harness serendipity without doing the work, right? The muse is your gateway to serendipity. Serendipity being unforeseen value coming to you, essentially, at a broad stroke. And the muse only responds to doing that work. So if I wanted speaking events, if I wanted coaching clients, if I wanted to be on other podcasts, if I wanted to expand my reach and influence into our space so that I could have conversations with people that I may want to do business with, or may want to partner with, or just want to have as a mentor or a contact, the best way to do that is to share who I am consistently online. And at this point, I don't have a resume. I haven't had a resume in years. If someone wants to know what I'm all about, what I believe in, and who I am, they just can simply look at all my content. Like, listen to the podcast, go to my LinkedIn, go to my Instagram. Like, go to my newsletter at findingpeak.com. Like, go check those things out, and you will know exactly what I believe and who I am. And I don't need to necessarily apply for jobs. Now, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't have to put a resume or something together, but like, I don't have to really work my way into places like I used to have to. There's a lot of doors get open. A lot of people come to me because they know what I'm about. And if they want that thing, they come to me because that they know exactly what they're going to get. And now, I get to choose whether I want that opportunity or not, but that was brought to me. So I've always been a staunch believer that what telling your story consistently, your value structure, what you believe in, your thoughts, your takes, etc., what that does is, it builds an audience, and some people do it because they want to be a celebrity. That's never been the reason for me. It's never been my goal. My goal has been, I like to work on projects with people that I like working with, that challenge me, that etc. And I want to be able to filter out those the people who are just kicking the tires or wouldn't be good clients through my content. So when someone approaches me, there's a very good chance that they're either going to become a coaching client, or they're going to become it's going to become a speaking gig, or whatever that opportunity is, because they've got so much that they've been able to vet of exactly who I am, that there's no misconceptions on what you're getting.
So I want to pull on this thread. In that, and I hear you to the T. Like, you want your content to attract just as hard as it repels the right people from the wrong people. And there are a ton of benefits like that just kind of come out of the blue when you are consistent in what you're putting out there. But I want to get into the weeds on this. I want to get super tactical. What does your content plan and strategy look like today?
So today, everything starts with either the newsletter or the podcast. So newsletter and podcast is Finding Peak. Newsletter is findingpeak.com. You can get to both through there or wherever you look. And really, it comes to me as an idea. So I consume a lot of content. Mostly, it's just the way that I'm wired. I just am interested in a lot of topics. I'm constantly trying to see where the world is going. I read finance, I read philosophy, I follow politics, which isn't probably the most healthy thing for me mentally, but I think it's very interesting. So I'm constantly taking things like, all right, there's this finance concept, there's something happening in the market. Like I just shared a couple weeks ago, I shared on LinkedIn this graphic of ChatGPT growth versus internet growth. And obviously ChatGPT growth, like it takes like 2 steps to the right and goes straight up. Yep. And internet growth is like this nice, steady, like over 20 years that gets to the same place, but it's like 3 years versus 20 years, right? And my comment was around both the economic implications to how we think about leading through this age of AI. So I took this finance article that I found, which shared this graph, right? I then took that idea, mashed it up against leadership in this age of AI, which is something I'm incredibly interested in and talking a lot about. And a lot of my keynotes lately have been around how do we lead through AI. So I'm taking in information for a topic I'm interested in. I'm pulling that in, making it relevant to leadership AI, leadership in the age of AI, and then putting a third filter on it, which is how that exactly applies to the insurance industry. Mm-hmm. So now I've taken this piece of content over here that I found because I'm consuming, and we can talk about how I save content and come up with ideas, et cetera, right? I've passed it through a filter of a topic I'm really interested in, leadership through the age of AI, then passed it through a filter of insurance and applied it to insurance. And now I have a wholly unique take on this growth in ChatGPT versus the internet and its implications to us as leaders in the age of AI inside the insurance industry. Now that might start as a LinkedIn post, that might start as an article, or it might start as a video. wherever it starts, take one of those three places, because those are usually where I'll post my ideas first. So if it's an unbaked, it's not a fully baked idea, I'll usually put it on LinkedIn. If it's fully baked, then it's either going to go out on the newsletter or the podcast first. And the reason I say newsletter or podcast is some ideas come to me and I feel like they're better initially portrayed as videos, right?
Yeah.
7 to 10 minutes, hard hitting, bang, bang, bang. Here's what I'm thinking on this topic, right? If it's a solo episode. Or I'm like, this is more tactical or more bullet pointed. I'm going to start with the newsletter article. And then from there, if the newsletter article does well, I will turn that into a video. If the video does well, I'll turn it into a newsletter article. And then whichever direction I go, I'm creating Substack notes, I'm creating LinkedIn posts, I'm creating tweets or an Instagram carousel or something out of that as well. So it's create one time and then work it through the rest of your channels, that idea in an appropriate format. Now, the mistake a lot of people make is they'll take one idea and then they'll just copy and paste that idea in every place that they have an account. Those days are over. That does not work.
Yeah,
if we want to be hyper tactical, we have to optimize for the platform that we're sharing on, right? So if I'm posting long form video or a longer form video on LinkedIn versus Instagram, right? That's going to need to look differently. It's need to be cut differently than for YouTube or for Instagram. So we want to make sure that these things are different. So if I were going to give everyone listening a plan, I would start everything video first. If I were starting today and I wanted to start to have a voice that I was talking to, say, my industry, I was looking to build a platform or influence versus market my business, although they are similar, right? The very first thing that I would do...
Actually, real quick, I want to hear this, but you just brought up a potential hot take here.
Yeah.
Do you see content creation as separate from a marketing content plan in a business?
Yeah. So your personal brand. So here, my take is that every person in a leadership position or every person that desires a leadership position should have a personal brand. Doesn't mean you need to post as much as I do, but you have to. And the reason is because when I hire, like, let's say I'm going to hire somebody, I'm going out and checking out what have they written? What are they posting about? What's important? Is it all pictures of their family, which is fine and cool? There's not a wrong or right answer, but I'm using what you wrote. If I can't find anything about you online, if you're one of those people that's like, I don't like to post on social media, but you're in business, you better be rich, or just, you better have $1 billion business. Because if you haven't done something so incredibly spectacular that everyone knows your name because of that individual thing that you've done, then you need a personal brand. Because when people want to partner with you, they want to know what you're about. They go to your LinkedIn. If someone wants to find out more about you as a person, maybe they go to your Instagram or your Facebook. If someone wants to see, like, what does this person actually believe? What's their philosophy around sales or marketing or HR or customer experience or web design or whatever thing it is that you do, right? Are you writing about it? Are you talking about it? Is there a place where I can go and actually get a feel for who are you following? Like if you're big into SEO and you're, reposting, Rand Fishkin and, I'm missing some of these names here, but like, or if you're in content marketing, Ben Meir, Justin Walsh, Cody Sanchez, if I see you, you're okay, I can tell maybe you're not a creator, but you're commenting or resharing or liking the people that I know what they're doing, that I know, hey, this person, this individual, this gal or guy, their mindset is similar to what I'm looking for. I know at least in part who I'm getting because they follow the same types of people, or they follow people that I know are respected and know what they're doing in that space. So you don't have to be this massive content creator, but if you're in sales and you don't have any sales takes, you're less valuable to me. It doesn't mean you're not valuable, because I know everyone out there that doesn't post on social media is like, blah, you don't understand. I'm an epic salesperson. Yeah, no, but I don't know that. I don't. You can tell me you're great at sales. You can show me the 6 other sales positions you've been in. But how do I know? Right? I don't know. But if I can see, wow, look at this take on inbound, call answering. oh, look how they're advocating for using an AI receptionist to a distributed round robin call team for high volume inbound. Or man, the way they positioned this little sales script that they shared on LinkedIn about doing cold calling, that's really thoughtful. I like the way they went through that. Like now I'm starting to develop a picture of who that person is. And if I'm recruiting or I'm thinking about doing another project or I'm looking for a speaker or a coach or whatever, right? That serendipitous opportunity, and I can't find you online, I'm going to move on to the next person that I can. There's just too much content in the world today to me, it's a net negative. If you're telling me that you're great at what you do and you haven't shared a single take or haven't commented in a forum or haven't written an article or a white paper or done a few videos on what you do, how much do you love what you do? In today's world, 10 years ago, this is not the same thing. But today, if you want to be a leader or you're a leader, I need to know what you're all about. If you want to be the person grossing the top income, the person who recruiters are reaching out to, who the company or the CEO that's always getting inbound partnership requests, et cetera, right? You have to have a brand. You have to be out there sharing your thoughts and feelings. And I have heard this from many, many people. People hire me because they know I'm not going anywhere. I create content every day. They know where to find me. They know I'm not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Like with my brand, if we did a business deal, Callan, and I screwed you over, how easy would it be for you to wreck my entire brand with one post?
Well, I think everything you're saying is interesting. And I will say I probably agree with 80% of it. And that 80% is
what's the 20% you don't agree with?
Well, I'll get there. I promise you. I love debating on this and on the show just in general. The 80% I agree with is that if you are out there, like one of the big things is like you're displaying a trigger that you are willing to do more than what's generally required for the job. And that and it's not even so much that it's like you're doing this just so you can. It's just you have a genuine interest. You're showing curiosity and you're showing a willingness to put yourself out there. And I think,
dude, can I cut you off real quick? This is the most common misconception that I get about me. I get the number of people that, and it doesn't happen so much. I think maybe I've just been around long enough, but there was a period of time, like before COVID, where I would have multiple people at a keynote, especially if it was the first time I had been to that event, who'd be like, "Oh, you're so much, you're different in person. Oh, I thought you were going to be a dick. I thought you were going to be this. I thought," because they would look at the content work as me like promoting myself, right? They thought that what I was doing was like promoting myself. Like I wanted to be this celebrity influencer. And I was like, no, that's not the reason. It's trust. Like when I said, if I have this big personal brand and I screw you over, you could wreck that brand with one post. To me, it is a safety valve for someone who does business with me to know that I don't want to wreck my personal brand. So to me, I tend to defer to people who have personal brands because I know even at the most selfish, secular, self-oriented level, right? To protect that brand, to keep getting business, to have people keep coming, they need to do a good job. They need to make good on their promises. Yeah. You know, that's not to say there aren't hucksters out there, but hucksters are few and far between today versus 10, 15 years ago on the internet. It's just, they can't hide. They get called out too quickly. So that personal brand is also like a SOC 2 compliance for doing business with you, right? Like, it's going to be, there's a high likelihood of safety because I can't not do my job and have you posting that I didn't. So it's that trust factor. And in my keynotes, I talk about, what we're trying to do as sales and marketing people is I think about it like a video game, right? Every prospect starts at 0 trust. And when you get them to 100 trust, right, that's when they buy. Content is the mechanism to fill that trust gap before they ever talk to you. So the more targeted your content is, the more it speaks to your target audience, the more consistently you're put out in your value structure, who you are, what you can do, who you help, adding value, contrarian ideas, thoughtful stuff, whatever it is, right? The more you do that, the more people see it, the higher that trust bar goes up before they ever speak to you. So now someone calls for a speaking gig, they're 90% of the way there. All I really need to do is validate that I am who I say I am online. And once someone feels comfortable with that last 10% is there, bang, I booked that gig or whatever the sale is, right? And that goes for anything and everything that we want, right? We want people out there researching us and building that trust up. And then our job at the end is just to take them to the close. That is way easier than having to take somebody who doesn't know anything about you because they can't find anything about you online and pulling them from 0 to 100. It's why in the insurance industry, dude, so many people work off of referrals. It's because we're lazy with content. Why? We love referrals because the trust meter in some cases is already at a friggin' 100 when we get a referral. It's easy. It's lazy selling. Right? Not that it's not good business. I'm not knocking it as a business practice. I'm just saying the reason that we all intrinsically love referrals is because Callan calls up and goes, "Hey, Ryan, I just talked to my buddy Mike the other day who does business with you, and he told me you're the guy." Your trust is already there. You already believe I'm the guy, right? So and that's because I created content. You went and Mike gave you the referral. You went to my website, checked me out, looks great. You watched a few of my YouTube videos, looked at my LinkedIn and said, Ryan is the guy, I'm in.
So I won't I agree with all that. Circling back to the 20%. So for me, and obviously this is coming from the angle of somebody that consistently does content as well, in that every single thing that you just said, I agree with that. The 20% that I would debate is I don't think it's a requirement. And I think that depending on what you're doing, there are tons of people that are ultra successful that you've just never heard of whatsoever. But the caveat to that is if you have a personal brand, if you're putting thoughtful content out there, it is absolutely a catalyst. And the opportunities that can come your way that you're not expecting are 100% there. There's no question.
Yeah, I'll say I think today it is mandatory. And the reason I think it's mandatory is so many more people are doing it, are creating content, sharing their voice, right? And I'd say a lot of those people who are highly successful with zero brand either built their business in a time when brand didn't matter. So we'll say pre-2010, 2005, personal brand didn't matter. Business brand has always mattered. Personal brand didn't matter. We'll say pre-2010, maybe even 2012, 2015 at the latest. Or they were able to leapfrog success through family member or situationally. I don't think there are a tremendous number of people who can build in silence forever and stay obscure and continue to win. You see this with all these tech entrepreneur CEOs, right? Maybe they do build at first in silence and they just have a product that hits and they're able to be so good because their product is so good and their brand is so dialed in from a business perspective that they're able to grow. They all eventually, to get to the next level of partnership, of growth, if you're a publicly traded company, just to get your brand out to the marketplace, they all start to step out in front of the camera over time. And the other thing I'd say is a lot of those people, I think it's survivor bias. And there's not a lot of them. I mean, there are not a lot of people who have built in silence forever that we just don't know about. That didn't build pre 2010, 2015. There's not a lot of them. And a lot of it is survivor bias. They just hit. They're the 1 in 10,000 product that was so good, so dialed, perfect timing, perfect situation. The product hits, grows, and they never had to do it. But I think for the vast, vast majority, and certainly the majority of people listening to this podcast, if you're going head to head with someone else for a sale, for a job, for a partnership, and they have a strong, trusted, consistent personal brand and you don't, you're behind the 8 ball. Doesn't mean you'll lose the deal or whatever, but you're behind the 8 ball. You're not ahead. The other person's ahead.
Yeah, and this is why I love this. I love the debate. And I definitely agree that it's a huge catalyst, and it is a net positive doing it versus not doing it, and it helps you personally set yourself apart. Who knows? I could be wrong. I could be wrong in 6 months. I could be wrong in a year.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. I think, well, the good news is, being that this is America, you can do whatever the hell you want, right? So that's the good news. I think a lot of this, so I think we skipped a step in this discussion, which is, what do you actually want?
100%.
And I found this with a lot of
100% agree.
A lot of the coaching clients that I've had, people tend to come to me when their growth is stalled, or they're just frustrated with their team, or they feel completely overwhelmed and they don't know how to take that leap from launch to passing escape velocity with their business. And in that process, a lot of times, it depends on the person and what they're struggling with. But if we're kind of starting at the very beginning, I'll spend time on like, what is it that you actually want out of this? Because I could give advice from 7 different directions, but if you want to have a nice lifestyle business and you want to be at all your kids' sports games and you don't want to travel and you want to be the mayor of your town someday or sit on the school board, right? That's a path. And there's a, maybe intellectual, business-oriented content marketing is not your best path in that scenario. Maybe it's just occasionally commenting on local community posts, right? So there's all different flavors for what this looks like, but we have to understand what we want. Like, the only reason I've survived in this industry is my personal brand, right? I was fired by Agency Nation. I was fired by SIA. I was fired by the fitness business that I worked at for a year when I couldn't travel. And the only reason that I was able to survive those moments is because even though those situations or projects didn't work out exactly the way that I would have liked, I think even the people who fired me would tell you that I was never coming from a bad place, that it just wasn't a fit for a bunch of different reasons. But that, I think through my content and through consistently showing up, I've been able to have more opportunities, because eventually I'm going to find the home that, just clicks, and all the skills and experience that I have will be able to provide real value. If I didn't have that personal brand, I don't get the job at Bold Penguin after trustedchoice.com. That personal brand got me the fitness job. So the founder of that fitness, he had 6 locations. When I kind of made it known locally that I was looking for something, he came to me, sat me down, bought me coffee, and said, "Hey, like, I'm a gym guy. Growth is stagnated. I think we have a really good product. I need someone who knows business to take this to the next level." That's because of my personal brand. If I had to apply to that job, how the hell does he know what I do, what I think? Why he would never even reach out to me, never even think to reach out to me, right? Yeah. All the appointments that I got, early on, people always ask me with Rogue Risk, how did you get all these appointments? Some of it is I knew how to set up a marketing plan and just had been in the industry enough, and I'd like to believe I can, sell the vision. But the other part was, a lot of those conversations were because marketing reps knew my personal brand. They knew that I was a high growth digital marketing person, that I was going to have a unique way of approaching the business, and they wanted to be associated with that, right? How did I get bought by SIA? My personal brand, right? They knew that I was trying to build something. I had a relationship with Matt Masiello. I had recommendations. I had been around. I had been very open about what I was building with Rogue Risk, why I was building it, how I was building it. And that's how I was able to get that business sold in 2 years. So if you think about it, like, yes, if you are at the same place forever in the same small town, or a town in which word of mouth and going to events is enough of enough marketing for you to be happy, make enough money and to be happy as hell, God bless you, don't do it. Don't start creating content, right? Like, don't do it. I'm not, I'm saying if you're out there, I think unless you are the majority equity owner of a business, you can't trust anybody. You can't trust anyone. Everyone in every business will always act in its own self-interest. And as long as you're adding value to that organization, you'll continue to have a position. But the minute that you don't, they will let you go. There is no loyalty in business anymore. And granted, if you're a 12-person local agency, maybe you think of yourself as a family and you're loyal. That's great. I'm talking about individuals who are trying to grow in their career and ascend positions, move up, build businesses, and be true scalers, right? it's that personal brand that keeps people coming back to you and knowing what you're all about and keeps opportunities coming to you over and over. It's not just for top end growth. It also provides you with a safety net in the eventuality that you fail, right? You have a leg up for new opportunities and being able to find your next project or your next career or your next job because that next company already knows what you're all about.
No arguments on that. I 100% agree with that. Having that brand, having that reputation goes a super long way when it comes to opportunities and things like that. So one of the things I want to pull back to is we talked about your content strategy. And so what I'm hearing is like you find something that's interesting, you overlay it on a couple of different things and how that ultimately relates to insurance, which is I love that. Like the hardest thing that you can possibly do when creating content is have a blank page. It's so difficult. And you've built in these guide rails, which, whether you're doing comedy or whatever that might be, like those guide rails everybody's got those guide rails too. Yeah. And that's like, I loved how you did that. It's excellent. That's pretty interesting. What you had mentioned is like you even started out with a LinkedIn post and that could turn into a long form piece of content, which I'm the opposite. I go long form. I do the hub and spoke model where long form content then creates the short form content, which for me, my key pillars are, YouTube/podcast, and LinkedIn, just because the majority of my audience is where they're at. Now, you mentioned what you would do differently if you were starting creating content right now. I'd love to circle back to that. What is that? What would that actually, what I'd love to kind of go through is what would the ideal content plan look like?
So for someone who's trying to build a brand in their space?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest example would be if you think of like founder sales, right? Like this always gets talked about in founders building a name, but the reality is it's similar to what you said. I think it's CEOs, I think it's executives. The only thing I would actually disagree on what you said is I actually might take this one a little bit step further. And I don't know that I think most marketing is going to ultimately be content marketing because we don't know what's going to happen with paid search. And paid search could obviously be here for a while, but AI is cutting into that already big time. And I do think that these things are going to be exponentially more important, which is why I was like, I could be wrong on this. I could be wrong in 1 year if you're not out there and you don't have some sort of brand. But I think if you're an executive or a founder, your brand is the company brand. And that's even up to like the biggest companies. You see Travelers doing a good job of this, of their executives are posting, making it more personal, not just a reshare of the company content. But I want to hear from you on how would you build that? In that case.
So if I were starting from scratch today, and let's say, let's take the executive. Actually, let's take the founder brand. So let's say I'm 27 years old. I sold insurance for 3 or 4 years. I saw a problem that I wanted to solve, and I went out and I created a company. Fairly common scenario that happens in our space.
Great example.
If I had done nothing up until that point, okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm in professional services, insurance, et cetera. You got to be where your audience is. If you're in the creator, if you're in the retail space, et cetera, you're going to be on Instagram or Facebook, et cetera. But if you're in politics or finance, you want to be on X. If you're in professional services or other business-oriented things, then LinkedIn's probably the best place to start. So, take the time to build out your profile, make your profile look professional. You can use Canva for a lot of this stuff, right? Like if you have no background or your background is ridiculous or some blurred home photo of the above ground pool or whatever that you just shoved in there, or like you and your bros like clinking beers at the game, like that stuff is fine until you're trying to be professional. And not that you can't occasionally drop that stuff in, but you want your profile, and I would start on LinkedIn, to be as professional, to be a good. It could be fun if your brand is fun. It should just match what you're trying to do, right? It's an attraction. It's a filter. Think of, we want to think of every piece of content as a salesperson working for us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, your blog, your website, Substack, newsletter, YouTube. Every piece of content is a salesperson working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So what is that selling? What is it doing? So if someone goes to your profile and you have no other content from your profile, from your profile image to your background image, to your title, to your description, to, you know, your products, to your about section, like, what does it say about you? Like, could I determine whether or not I want to do business with you from your profile? You should be able to do that. Now, your life is always changing. It doesn't have to be 100% all the time exactly, but have it be a nice professional setup. And then from there, right, I think the easiest thing to get going on is just start commenting, right? Yeah. So if you're uncomfortable with posting, or you don't know what you want to post, right, use the LinkedIn search feature, or just follow some people in the space that you know create and watch what they write and comment on it. Just add some value. Hey, I had this experience, or have you ever thought about this? Or here's a really good quote that goes along with it, or my experience, or I heard once, or there's this study that, or whatever, right? Or just a, hey man, appreciate what you're doing, keep going, right? Just some positivity. Just start commenting if you're really uncomfortable creating, because what that'll start to do is get you used to the process of hitting submit on that comment and on that piece of content. A lot of people struggle with, they feel like they're going to be judged for every single thing that they write. And I mean, I guess to a certain extent you are, but you know, the goal is people judge you for the pieces of content that move them, not for the pieces of content that don't. And you have no ability to gauge which piece of content is going to move someone and which isn't. I could write 20 pieces of content. If I were trying to market to you, right? Like, let's say you were someone who I wanted to sell something to, or I wanted to partner with, whatever, right? I need one piece of content in which you go, ooh, I like the way he's thinking about that. This is a guy I need to reach out to. Like, that's pretty interesting, the way he thought about that. How the hell do I know which piece of content is going to do that for you? Because it could be this. I could post the same piece of content, and on one day it's meaningless to you. On the next day, it changes your entire world. So we have to get over this idea that every piece of content we create is gonna be amazing for everybody. I've had pieces of content that have done 250,000 views, and I've had pieces of content that do 250 views. It just, sometimes the algorithm doesn't hit, the image doesn't hit, the text doesn't hit. There's, you know, you post too late, you post too early. You know what I mean? There's a million reasons why something might work or not work. And there are a lot of nerdy tools that you can pay money for that'll tell you, here's the best time to post and blah, blah, blah. And all that is good if you want to be that new, like detailed about it. My best advice early on is just to start creating. Like, just start hitting publish. Just hit publish on LinkedIn. Make once a day, once every other day, right? You need some consistency to it. And what it's going to get you doing is start thinking in content, right? Like, thinking, when you see a headline, you start going, ooh, how would I spin that back to what I'm doing? Or, geez, there's a really interesting take here in, you know, HVAC contractor insurance, right? You're running, you got a startup MGA for a contracting product, right? Like you want to tie something back to the contracting industry, and you want to tie something back to the insurance industry, and you want to tie something back to underwriting, and you want to talk about a part of the process that you've hacked a solution to, and, or, you know, why you decided to only have 5 boxes when most of your competitors ask for 7 boxes of information, or all these little touch points, right? And again, most of them are going to go nowhere. And this is what people get messed up about, particularly with YouTube, because of view counts. They look at, like, especially insurance people will post a video on YouTube and it'll get 57 views, and they'll be like, what if you don't need 5,000 views, 10,000 views, 50,000 views? The right 57 people watching your video is all you need. That's all you need. It's just, and you have no idea which one. I mean, I've been saying this for years to people from stage. The reason I created 470 something videos for the Murray Group and 490 something plus videos for the Murray Group, or for Rogue Risk, sorry, is because I had no idea which videos would hit and which wouldn't.
You can't. Idea. You really don't know. You have
it
no
clue. It
clue.
could be SEO'd perfectly with the perfect YouTube thumbnail, with the perfect description and tags and keywords and blah, 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 and it could go nowhere.
Yep.
You have no ability to control what the algorithm shows, who it shows it to, how they react, what people are on at that time, because how most algorithms work is when you post something, the algorithm will take that piece of content and it will show it to a portion of your connected audience. So your followers or your connections or whatever. And it'll show it to that portion. And then based on the performance inside of that group, it either, this depends on the platform, but the algorithms work in kind of one or two ways. They then either show it to more of your connections, or they'll start showing it to people you aren't connected with and see how they respond. And if you get good responses from each constituency, that's how you get viral spread. But if at any point one of those constituencies is, again, I'm broad stroking this, there are nuances, but if at any point one of those constituencies doesn't respond, most of the algorithms will then stop showing it to a similar constituency. So if you think about that, right, you have to post the right piece of content with the right message, the right image, the right hook, the right text at the right time, and hope that the right people are on at that moment in order for that thing to spread virally. Now, when you have 1 million followers, there's a higher likelihood that's going to happen. But especially early on, we're going to be talking to tiny little audiences. So just keep creating, and eventually one of those will hit. And when it does, it tends to then be, and if you continue to be consistent, that's when you start to get that exponential growth. But most people stop in what Seth Godin would call the dip, right? That you start posting and everyone's like, oh, Callan's posting, way to go, man, you're the best. And you get all these people like congratulating you for, whatever. And then that fades. It's going to fade. Even if you're amazing, it's going to fade. And it's, can you survive that dip? Can you keep creating through that dip when you're just grinding out content and it looks like your audience isn't growing and it looks like no one's consuming? And if you can grind through that section, that it's almost like the muse is watching to say, do you have the guts? Do you have the persistence, the dedication, the discipline to keep posting even though I ain't showing your content to anybody? And if you do, it's almost like you earn, the universe, the creator, the creator gods go, you know what, Callan, you've been creating for X long, like, here you go. Here's some, and I'm telling you, it just works that way. I know that sounds silly because there's zero technicality, but that's literally how I think about it and how I've seen it work over and over and over and over again on every platform.
Well, and honestly, I would probably extrapolate that to any creative activity, period. Meaning, like, you don't know. That's why like stand-up comedy takes 7 years to find your voice. 7 years. And everybody that does it will get into it going like, it's not going to take me 7 years. It's going to take you 7 years. Like, that number is there for a reason. And I certainly found that, like, personally from like just my journey on like the comedy side, but like, and I totally agree with everything, especially the comments. Like, actually, I don't know if you saw it, Richard Vanderblom just released his October update. Comments are almost becoming equally as important as posts right now. Yeah. Which is wild. And if you comment, it'll increase the reach of your post. And to your point earlier, though, it's like you can get so caught up in the algorithm and trying to game it, and it'll change it at any moment. Do the best that you can, but consistency is more than anything. And I love what you said about, you want the right, if those are the right 57 people, that's all that matters. And it's true, because one of those could be $1 million deal. You don't know. Yeah.
I'll give your audience a little hack for commenting. So I created a custom GPT in OpenAI for commenting. So I put in a bunch of my work, my experiences, transcripts from different videos, transcripts from different things I've written or blog posts to essentially seed that GPT with my voice. Then I gave it a bunch of instructions on how I like to comment, how I comment, how I want the comments to come across. And then I gave it 3 voices. I gave it Tony Robbins' voice, I gave it the Cody Sanchez voice, and I gave it the Ryan Hanley voice. So when I'm like, one of the things that I'll do in the morning is I'll pull up LinkedIn or I'll pull up Substack. And if you have the Atlas browser, you can do this right inside of the browser. If you don't, you just have to have a separate tab open in ChatGPT. But I will just scroll down and see a post that I like, and I'll take the link from that post, I'll put it in, say create a comment. It creates 3 different versions of the comment. I take the version that I like, copy and paste it in, make any changes that I want, hit publish. and then just do that 5 to 10 times on LinkedIn and on Substack every morning. It takes 20 minutes while I'm drinking my coffee, and you just got 10 to 20 comments on important platforms out that are in your voice, that sound like you, that are adding value, that are contributing to the conversation. And it's not automated. It's not like I'm using ChatGPT to come up with the bones, but it's coming up with the bones out of my own work, with my own voice, with my own tone. And then I always, make any like adjustments, either punctuation or if there's words I want to change, et cetera. But it drastically reduces the amount of time that it takes to be active and contribute and add value to the community. And setting up that GPT took me 15 minutes. I mean, so 15 minutes of setting up custom GPT. And now I have this commenting engine that's constantly learning. So now I'm not just getting the comments out. It's not just in my voice, but it's also seeding some of the ideas that I want to consistently be associated with as well in those comments.
That's a great idea. Do you have a newsletter that you broke down this process by chance on?
I haven't broke down that one, but I do this all the time. If anyone's interested in this stuff, go to findingpeak.com. It's, basically where we talk about, leadership, performance, and influence. So how do we become the best versions of ourselves and tell our story online in a way that generates, interest and attraction. So findingpeak.com is the newsletter.
All right, last question I have for you. You started all this from the beginning. What is one thing that you would do differently? And the answer can't be nothing.
I mean, tactically, there's a ton of things I would do differently early on. I would have started everything with video to long form to short form to image, and created that process. I would have developed an outsourced editing team way earlier, because as much as we look at it as an expense, the amount of time that you waste on editing is insane. Now, I think with AI, I've actually got rid of my last VA for editing because of how much I'm doing with AI now. I will probably, and most of that is I wanted to learn the systems and processes that then I could rehire someone else and train them. Because I've researched a ton of tools and have really come up with, some systems and processes that allow me to create at an incredibly rapid rate. So like all the content I put out, I have no one helping me today. It's all edited using various AI tools and systems, and then, kind of that create once, publish, multiple times philosophy. So I probably, I would have gone even harder, deeper, and been more consistent on video early. I obviously do a lot of video now, but I would have gone even further and learned YouTube even more early. YouTube is just a gold mine. It's just an absolute gold mine. And then I would have outsourced production quicker, because if you have a job to do and you're going to buy into this leader creator idea, you're not going to have time. Like, you're just not going to have time. I'm kind of a maniac. And this is as much a hobby for me as it is what I do for work. But even now that I kind of have my systems and processes with AI set up, it's time to go find someone and outsource that again, because you can't be your best creator if you're also doing all the editing and you have a full-time job. It's almost impossible.
I couldn't agree more on that. And I've got a team behind this for all that, because you just it's maximize your strengths, right? Play to your strengths. What do you do best? Doesn't mean you can't be a good editor as well, but odds are if you're a great host and all that, then you're going to probably maximize that. Ryan, this has been awesome, man. I very much enjoyed the debate. We'll have to get you back on here and pick this up and see where we land.
Anytime. I can talk about this stuff all day. I feel like we just scratched the surface. And, with AI, content creation has become so much easier. It doesn't mean it's easier to stand out. If anything, it's harder to stand out today because you have to be more nuanced, more specific. You have to really make creating a skill, not just something you do, in order to stand out. However, the ability to get content out has never been cheaper or easier or faster. And I highly recommend every leader, everyone who's in a position of leadership, everyone who wants to grow their career. It is paramount in my opinion, that you have some sort of online brand. It doesn't have to be yours or mine. It doesn't have to, you know what I mean? But there needs to be something. Needs to be something.
Ryan, thanks for coming on, brother. This was a ton of fun.
Appreciate it, dude. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed Ryan and I's conversation. I love diving into other people's creative processes, and I always find myself taking at least one thing from them. If you want to learn more about Ryan, you can find him on LinkedIn in the show notes. Also, if you like this episode, you can find me on LinkedIn to let me know. And if you really want to support the show, subscribe to us on YouTube or give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Every time you do, it is very much appreciated. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next week.